Hello and welcome to the fifth episode of Lost Art of Conversations with your host, Joe.
And Paul.
We are back.
Paul, back.
Before we start, I have to say, we're new to the podcast game. And one thing that we keep forgetting from one episode to another that actually some people have reminded me that have been listening is to actually let people know where they can find us on Instagram and on Twitter. So currently on Instagram, you can find us at Lost Art of Conversations. And on Twitter, you can find us at Lost Art of Convo. Okay, so Lost Art of Conversations on Instagram, and on Twitter it's slightly different, cuts off a little bit at the end, and it's Lost Art of Convo. Okay?
Right, and on every YouTube video as well, I post the links in the description as well.
Excellent. Okay, so today our episode is called Our Origin Story. Paul does most of the editing. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to put some Marvel music in the background or something.
Yeah, I'll put some loud, depending on the mood of whatever the conversation is. I'll have to edit that in.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess like we said in previous episodes, there's been some people that have brought up that, especially people that don't know us personally that have listened into the podcast, were wondering a little bit about our history, like how exactly we know each other, etc. So we thought it'd be a good idea to do an entire episode on that.
Yeah, and I think it's a good idea to do this just because, when other people meet each other, they talk about it years later, right? And they reminisce about how they met. They tell other people how they met, and it breaks into conversation. And some people get, inspired to maybe go out and find new friends and find other people that they want to communicate with and build a friendship with in the long run. So I think it's a good topic.
Exactly. And of course, just like with anything, right? We even at school we talk about like why do we teach history? Why do we learn history? Right? History is a foundation, right? You move on from history. People do a lot of great things in history, and there's also mistakes that are made in history.
Well, they say history repeats itself, and sometimes you don't want it to repeat itself.
Yeah, exactly. Right?
But it's a good conversation point.
Yeah. So it's so we kind of like before to prep for this, we just maybe went through a little bit of our timeline, and we just had like a couple of quick talking points. It's funny because I just talking to Paul over the phone quickly, just saying some of the things we're going to talk about. He's like, I don't even remember that.
Honestly, half the things we're going to talk about, you're going to jog my memory.
Yeah.
Because I some things maybe I don't want to remember.
So it's going to be interesting to see whether or not. Well, I'm not sure Paul remembered the exact time or date that we actually met for the first time. I don't know the exact date. I know it was a summer, and I know it was the year was 2001.
It was some kind of get together.
It was a get together, right? So I was at my ex-girlfriend's house, and we had a common friend. His name is Thomas, and he went to he went to Schulich with me, and they Paul and Tom and some other friends of his came to my ex-girlfriend's house, and what I remember from that day is actually that we played bocce balls in the backyard.
You know what? It's a vague memory for me. However, I do remember that when I first met you, I said, well, who's this guy? He looks much older than us. I remember that. I think he had a full beard.
Yeah, I probably did. A goatee
if I remember. That's
or a
right.
full beard.
Something like that, yeah.
I had more hair than I currently have now, for sure, in 2001. But I was balding, probably just making sure I covered it up. But anyway, so we became friends in 2001, where we started like going out like as in a group, etc. And then Paul, you were attending Waterloo.
I was in Waterloo University, but I mean we'll get to that part of the story. But I think what I remember is that when you meet somebody and they're going to be your friend for the long term because you hit it off right away.
Yeah.
And I think that was how it was with me and you.
Yeah.
Because we just had the same kind of conversations.
Yeah.
We were same interest and all that. And I think that's what builds really a relationship for the long term, right? So it was common interest, and we just I think we talked the whole night, and we just joked around. It was good.
And the thing that what you said about that is interesting is that, like, yeah, it's true. It's about common interest and it's about conversations, right? So, like, as we go through this timeline and we talk about different things, like different outings that we went to, some stories that we come across over our history. There are things like when we used to get together and have conversations, whether it's at coffee shops, at each other's houses, on drives, whatever it was, right? There were things that we had these common interests that we'd have conversations with, whether it's faith, whether it's trying a new business venture.
A few of those.
Yeah, whatever it was, right? And what was kind of cool, I found about Paul from the start, unlike maybe some people from my past, other friendships I had, is that, like, he had an open mind to have those conversations.
Yeah, because I feel like, to be honest, if you're a closed-minded person, you keep to yourself, you're not going to be able to talk to anybody, and you're not going to have that many friends, to be honest.
Yeah.
Unless you open up, and then I think you tend to do that because you find that, you know what, I'm not getting along with most people. Maybe I should, compromise or bend a little bit, or open, be open and honest with people, and then you start to gain friendships, right?
For sure.
But yeah, I think that's what it is.
So after we met shortly thereafter, one of the first big things that we ended up doing together was we went on a big trip to the Dominican Republic in 2002.
I brought a lot of sunscreen.
I brought a lot of. So the mistake I made, like, Paul brought sunscreen. At one point, he also borrowed. I don't know if you remember this, but I brought this like heavy coconut smelling oil.
Oh yeah, that was great.
That, like, I could, like, after this trip, I could be in a Red Lobster commercial.
Yeah, I think when you put oil on your skin, it tends to bake, like a turkey in the oven, especially the Dominican. So I think we went to the Dominican was during we just finished final exams in university, and I think I had my final physics exam in engineering, and I was just completely stressed out of my mind. I said, let's just go. It was June. I think we just said, let's just book it and go. Yeah. And that's it. And of course we did research until, the day's end, because that's what we do. Yeah. And we found this place in the Dominican, and we said, 30-degree weather, let's do it. Yeah. And that's it. Even though it was about 20 some odd here.
Punta Cana. I wish I still, like, that, like, when you go to these, like, all-inclusive resorts, right? You have, like, the one or two songs that are played the whole time that you're there, like morning, afternoon,
if
and
you
night.
Stay for more than 7 days, everything starts to repeat itself.
Yeah, well, because normally it's a 7-day stay.
The Michael Jackson concert that they always do in basically every Caribbean island.
Every Caribbean island has a Michael Jackson show.
They do. Could it be the same Michael Jackson guy?
No.
That he travels from. It's a lot of air miles.
It's a lot of air miles. That's right. But yeah, so I mean, it was entertaining. It was obviously a fun time. The thing is that, like, we've joked about, like, under researching and over researching things throughout our podcast, and I definitely over researched that trip because I was really doing a lot of the organization.
So at the time, I think that we had just magazines to go off of.
Yeah,
travel magazines.
Some internet, but not much.
Some internet, but it wasn't the way it is today, where it's instantly click and it's done. Yeah. And I think you had stacks of it, and you also brought those on the trip.
I did. And but the thing that was really important, and it ended up really coming into play on this trip, was my research regarding not, at the time, drinking the water in the Dominican, because
I was just going to say that
you could get sick. And the thing that we learned was the sentence "no yellow." And Paul and I are both not Spanish. We try our best. Yeah. But we spent the whole trip making sure that we said no yellow.
And you know what happened? We said that. However, in the crushed ice drinks, it was hard to get away from.
No yellow.
So we kind of, the bathroom was our best friend.
Well, and the thing is I don't know if Paul remembers this, but I came back with a friend. So the friend that came back with me was a lovely little tapeworm.
Yes, that was
that was
I
growing
remember that.
inside me.
Oh my.
Yeah, so I came back
Yeah,
from the
I
Dominican.
remember that.
And what the irony of it is that we had such a great time in the Dominican. I think it was really our first trip for most of us with like friends.
I remember that we wanted to go on an excursion. It was the I think the boat,
The banana
thing,
boat?
the
No, it was
banana
like
boat,
a glass boat. It was like
some
a
kind of
party
boat,
boat.
some kind of boat.
Yeah.
And when we went to go book that outing,
Yeah.
So it was, picture this, it was 30 some odd degrees, humid, so probably 40 something. And the only place to book this thing was this little hut just outside the
remember that
entrance of the
hut.
resort.
Yeah.
And there was this guy there. Okay, first of all, I
so
think
you want to party?
that was all I remember. So you want to party?
I
As
still
soon as we
remember
walked
to this
in,
day.
it was -10 in that hut.
Yeah,
He was cranking the AC, and I think we got sick because of that.
For sure.
Because it was going from 40 to -10. I don't know what he did to get that air conditioner, but it was.
But the thing I was gonna say to you though
That was
is that
hilarious.
I remember making fun of everybody on that trip because everybody was getting sick, and
Yeah, it
that's
was
what
bad.
happens. It comes back to haunt you.
Listen, we're not bashing Dominican. It's a
no,
great place.
No, but I'm saying
but-
like everybody was getting sick. It was
Yeah.
like Dominican was like really Punta Cana was becoming a real destination at that
Yeah.
point. And I went years later, and the difference in what they did with the ice, the water was vast.
A lot better.
Right? It
But you
was
know
way
what?
different.
I think it was. I had never been to a Caribbean place before, and I think it's just getting used to that environment as
Yeah.
well. And to be honest, that temperature I've never experienced that. That was like, for me, I get burned in the winter, right? So to go from that to Dominican, it was wow.
And that last day, I forgot to say no ice in my drink, and I started feeling a little different on the flight home. And I remember thinking, I'm the one that got through this. Everybody on the trip except for me got sick while we were on the trip.
Yeah.
I came back, and
after the trip,
when I didn't have an appetite for my mom's lasagna, I'm like, something's
there was a
wrong.
problem.
Something's
I think
wrong.
you called me up and said, I can't eat the meatballs. I can't eat the lasagna.
And then I found out I had a tapeworm, and luckily I did because I had to remove that thing. Because if people who don't know this, when there's a tapeworm inside you, once they're finished eating the food that's inside of you, then they start going for the organs.
Did they? So they took it out, obviously.
No, it had to come out.
No, it didn't.
Yeah.
Oh my!
So
So when it came out, did you see the thing?
No, I wasn't looking for it, Paul.
Well, you should have
The,
looked.
the antibiotics did what they had to do,
No
and
kidding.
then I just moved on.
Did
on.
the doctors like keep it, or you just flushed it?
Well, the thing is, the scary thing is that same year, two young children died
From that thing?
from getting a tapeworm because it started actually eating away at parts of the body.
Yeah,
One of them in
those things could
Bolton.
be.
One of them from Bolton too.
Yeah, I think I heard some. I think I remember that at the time. And listen, those things are not something to laugh at, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But
So between like after the trip to the Dominican, obviously when you go on a trip with people, you learn a lot about them.
you get closer for sure.
Closer,
yeah,
right. You have all these experiences together. Yeah. You have these fun moments. Just like when when you are like even marrying somebody, right? You need to actually like get to know them in ways other than just going out with them. You need to know, okay, like what are the ins and outs? Like how do they react in different situations, right?
Yeah. You got to hang out with them. In other words, you got to be their friend. You got to know what they're, about and have those, I guess, deep conversations and, that's how things work.
Exactly.
I mean,
So between then and like when we started getting into like other parts of our lives, like, because, there was a time span where, Paul and I both kind of graduated from school and we're like trying to like figure out what we want to do. Like I was working at the bank. Paul was still, I think you were still doing some engineering stuff, or you went to U of T after for a bit.
Well, so my story is that I've been to about 3 universities. So I started out at engineering at Waterloo, and then I transferred to U of T because the campus life there, I just didn't want to do it anymore. All my friends were here.
Yeah.
So I kind of just came back to U of T and I did engineering at U of T. And then I finally ended up at York.
Yeah.
And I graduated from York. And I think when I was at York, I don't know if you guys were still at York.
Yeah, I think I was finishing. It was like my last year.
Yeah, so that's when we kind of hung out more and we went in the conference rooms and we studied for tests and all that. And that's when we just really got to know each other even more, because that's, you're basically hanging out all the time after, right? So, but yeah, that's basically.
I mean, there was a
what I
time that literally, like, I'd be at home and like I'd be going towards the door to like leave, and my dad's like, "Where are you going? Our Paul?"
Well,
Right?
I was gonna say, back to the studying thing.
Yeah.
So I think that stronger relationships happen when everybody's under the same stress.
Yeah, that's
because,
true.
Yeah, because
I like that.
you try to motivate each other
Yeah.
to do things, and then okay, you can do that test, and then you focus more. Kind of, okay, half the night you're talking about BS,
Yeah.
but you actually go there, and it feels more comfortable studying,
Well,
and
because
being with
everybody's
people
got
doing
the
that.
like the same mindset,
That's
right?
right.
You have some people
Yeah.
like, we would all get together for these study sessions. We'd go to like some of the empty rooms in Schulich, which is where me and Tom attended.
Yeah.
And we'd go in there and we'd study, and everybody was kind of doing their thing. But then we'd joke around about something, talk about some stuff. It makes the time go. You feel like you're multitasking.
Yeah, you get the work done,
Yeah.
because also you ask each other questions, and they help. Your friends help you with certain things that you don't understand, and it's just kind of a good thing. Now, mind you, you should study alone a lot of the time, but in the group session, I think it's a really good good thing, right?
And so when we started even having like some of those conversations, like we get together at the Bolton Tim Hortons often, right?
Yeah.
That was a common place where we'd get together.
I remember that.
There were 3 big business ventures that
I
Paul
think we
and
funded their operations for many years.
Yeah, there was 3 big ventures that we attempted to do, and because, like I said, we're always trying to think of something to do, right? We're always like, you know what, like we've got the minds to do it. Why not? Let's try something cool.
Oh, we tried. Yes.
Yeah, we tried.
Did.
So one of the first things we did was we started selling stuff on eBay.
We did, and how long did that last?
That didn't last.
That didn't last long.
We were excited. We were excited. What was that location we went to in Bolton?
Giant Tiger, I think it was,
or Liquidation World.
Liquidation World. That's right. The problem was, I don't think we did enough research at the time to figure out what would sell.
Yeah,
we're just kind of like, oh, this is cheaper, a foot bath or something. I remember a foot bath.
we found these incredible things that we sold for way more than what we bought for, which were those they were like these things that connected to a chart, to a paper chart. I don't know if you remember.
I don't remember.
But it's a USB that connects to a chart paper. And when a teacher writes on the chart paper, it makes automatic electronic notes.
That, you know what? I remember that.
We bought them for $7.99.
Now it's called an iPad.
Now it's called an iPad. Back then it was
an electric paper.
Piece of technology to a piece of paper,
electric paper,
and see what comes out of it. So we bought these things for $7.99, and we bought one by fluke.
Yeah.
And then we saw how much it was selling for on eBay. They were selling for like $90, $100. I'm like,
that was crazy.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. I think it was the early stages of eBay as well.
Yeah.
So maybe
I was selling everything. I sold my orange tearaway Kappa pants.
Oh yeah, I remember those.
To a girl.
What did that say, Joe?
Yeah. But eventually, the thing that kind of sucked about eBay is that I was actually eventually kicked off. I don't know if you even know this.
No, I don't remember.
So I was kicked off because I was unaware that
what happened.
so I was thinking. So one day I was sitting around. I'm like, I was running out of things to sell, right? Because you're excited on eBay, right?
Are you selling stuff that your parents just bought you?
You just want to sell something, right? So even like you sell something and it's like sell it as is. I got a broken saucer here with a cup.
Yeah,
right?
Somebody will buy it.
Yeah, somebody will buy it, right? If they bought the Kappa pants,
they might as well. Yeah.
So what ended up happening is that like I went to the eye doctor and my prescription changed. Right.
Okay.
And it was a sudden change. Right. And I had like all these like unused contact lenses. And I'm like, what a waste. I go, these things are going to get thrown out.
Yeah.
Right. So I tried to sell.
You're not allowed to sell those?
You're not allowed to because it's prescription. Like I didn't think prescription drugs, right? Like it's not like to me, it's not a drug, right?
No.
I'm thinking like somebody who can't afford contact lenses.
So it was a good thing to do.
I was trying to do a good thing.
Right.
And also because I thought, okay, these things are going to waste.
Right.
But I think the name for it is like insurance scam.
Insurance.
Because if you think about it technically,
right.
At the time,
what were you trying to do
time, I wasn't working, but I was covered under my dad's insurance as his son, right? So like those contact lenses.
There's more to this story.
The contact lenses were purchased by the insurance company. So I could see now why that would be something that eBay frowns upon.
Well, look, because then you just keep getting free contact lenses.
Exactly.
And selling them on eBay.
Side. Yeah, and that's why I think it's called insurance
that's in
scam.
the fine print somewhere.
Yeah. So they contacted me. They said, listen.
They contacted you.
They contacted me. And they said, no contacts.
No contacts.
Yeah. So that was the first thing. The second thing I'm sure you remember, Paul,
I remember this one.
The ice cream making.
Yeah. So that was an endeavor because we did research to purchase an ice cream maker.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember the brand it was.
We purchased more than one.
We did because we wanted to make sure that the cream would freeze.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just ice cream that we were making, was it?
No.
What kind of ice cream was it?
It was alcoholic ice cream.
It was alcoholic ice cream.
Booze cream.
Booze cream. So we had this name called Booze cream. By the way, they have alcoholic ice cream now. So, you can go out and try it. Go ahead. But it was called Booze cream. We thought it was an ingenious idea.
It was a great idea.
And the one problem we had was that we figured that, well, ice cream's easy to make. However, alcohol melts at a lower temperature. Freezes at a lower temperature if it freezes at all.
Yeah.
And it didn't do that at the same temperature as the ice cream.
Yeah.
So it didn't work.
Yeah. It became more of like
well, the other thing was we had said there's another problem was because if you're going to sell this in grocery stores, they don't have a liquor license.
Back then, you couldn't.
Now,
now it's that problem solved.
Yeah.
We kind of were ahead of our time, right? Because
we're 10 years too late.
The problem was going to be distribution.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because, the LCBOs aren't going to go and put freezers in just for our ice cream.
Right.
In the States, they already had... the company had already come up with it,
right,
and they had the Canadian rights because we went through your lawyer.
That's right,
and he said, you guys can't.
We were serious about this.
We were serious.
I know. We thought it was a great idea, and I think now they have a bunch of brands at Longo's and all the grocery stores.
Well, Haagen-Dazs purchased it.
Yeah.
So Haagen-Dazs has the rights now because I recently.
But is it alcoholic? Like, is it real alcohol or is it flavored?
Well, see, that's the thing. I'm not sure if if it's real alcohol, if it's flavored. I think it might be.
See, back then it was just me and you trying to figure this out. Yeah. They probably had a team of chemists trying to make this thing work. Well, that's the problem. Right?
We're not chemists.
We're not chemists.
Yeah. But we tried. We tried. We had fun with it.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was more like a sorbet. It did feel like it was more.
It was a sorbet, and
getting the texture down was difficult.
I don't think we ever got it to freeze properly at all.
No, I don't think so.
It was. So we moved on to the next.
So the next one, I don't know if you remember this one.
I do remember.
I remember this one because I was really excited about this idea.
It was, I think you called me up and you're like, Paul, this is amazing. I got another idea. I'm like, okay, here we go.
But a radio station did this years later and it was successful.
I remember.
So I had this idea. It was called Millionaire Bear.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I thought was like every year there'd be a specific bear that's set for that year. Right. Mm-hmm. And it would be sold to people. And like each of them would have their own specific identification number. There'd be a limited amount of bears. It would go for the year. So it'd be like a special collector's item for that year. Right. And then, a lot of times when we think of ideas, Paul and I, it's not even just about like just a business venture and actually making the money ourselves. We're also thinking about other people too, because one of the big things about this was trying to do it like something where we could give money, like donate
back,
the money.
Donate the money or a portion or whatever it was.
So we'd have a lot of the portions going back, but then we'd also have like that all from the money that was collected from the bear, that one bear would be drawn on New Year's Eve.
Oh, I remember that.
And that bear, whoever had that number would win $1 million.
That's right. Yeah.
Because I like Paul and I, we think big. So like when I was talking to Paul about it, I'm like, Paul, can you imagine? Nobody's watching like that guy anymore on the New Year's show. They're watching Paul and Joel call out the Millionaire Bear number.
Yeah. Who was the guy before Ryan Seacrest?
Dick Clark.
Dick Clark. That's it. Yeah.
That's the name didn't come to me. Right. So it's funny because like I said, we try to think big, right? So
whatever happened to that after? I don't think we
So I looked into it and we couldn't do that because it was considered a lottery.
That's right.
So we had to go through
OLG. That's right.
We had to go through OLG.
All these hurdles.
So yeah, you know what the thing is that I do have to say, I think that what happened with a lot of these is that we were younger back then, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, and this was 20 years ago, man.
Yeah. And I think that at the time, like, we didn't have the resources we do now. We didn't have maybe that extra, like now, like even with this podcast, right? It's not even about money making. It's about getting together, having a good time, motivating people to have conversations with each other, inspiring people, right? Like maybe we wouldn't have done this jump maybe 10, 15 years ago.
I think that's a good point because experience, right?
Yeah.
So also relationships over the years. Right now, I could probably call a bunch of people and get something like this distributed, right? Because I have them in my contacts.
Yeah, exactly.
But 20 years ago, you don't have that kind of relationship. So it takes sometimes years to gain that, to gain those friends, those business acquaintances, those, over those years.
Yeah.
And it's just, something it's kind of cool how things like that work, right?
Yeah, 100%.
But different times, right?
Of course.
You don't have the resources. Now you do. Now it's already done by somebody else.
Yeah, that's the problem. So we're
on to the next thing.
We're a little bit late to the game.
Late to the game sometimes.
Yeah,
but I think our ideas are pretty good.
Yeah, they've been pretty good. They've been pretty good. So we spent a lot of time at Tim Hortons having conversations like that. And that was I think a key component to our friendship, being able to have one another to kind of like talk ideas with, come up with something. Hey, what do you think of this, right? And I think we're pretty like honest with each other, right? Like, we'd say like, no, that's a stupid idea.
Yeah, well, that's
like,
you tell it straight, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't like that. It's not going to work.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
You'd be like a devil's advocate, kind of say, okay, well, what if this? What if that? Sometimes we overthink it, but maybe one of us sometimes is adamant and say, no, I think this is good.
Yeah.
And then, you kind of compromise and say, let's try it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And so that was like probably like a high percentage of our conversations. But then as time goes on, right, like I think one of the true testament to friendships is, especially with males, right, is being able to actually still have that friendship with each other when the females are introduced into the equation.
Yes, that is a thing that needs to be discussed.
Because I mean, really, at the end of the day, right?
It happens a lot.
It happens all the time, right? We're friends. Either especially guys, they lose touch because like they move on to relationships, right? And then they don't have time to go out. I think like the basis of a lot of like male relationships are the like getting together in person.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Compared to, I think, female relationships where I think more time can pass and they can have conversations on the phone, etc. Just to have an ear.
Well, that's why we have guys' night. We go out every couple of weeks or a month, let's say.
Yeah.
Now it's a different story because, kids and
COVID, all that stuff that happened.
But we try to get together. We text each other or call on the phone and say, okay, let's get the other guys together. And we're going to go somewhere.
Yeah.
We'll do something. We'll have to get out of the house.
Yeah.
And that's it. And just a simple outing.
Yeah.
Right?
But the nice thing I was going to say is that like from the very start, both of us were able to have conversations regarding our significant others, and be open with that and have that comfort level, right? So like the examples I'm going to bring up are the fact that like when, in my case, when I was doing two huge things related to marrying my wife, I went to Paul as the person that I seek to for like, advice or to like come with me to go check things out, whatever. whatever.
And I did the same thing.
And Paul did the same thing.
Yeah.
Paul did the same thing with me when it came to getting together with Nadia. So with me, for example, I was planning on proposing to my then girlfriend, now wife Josie, and one of the things is that I was going to go and use like a bear from Build-A-Bear to propose to her, and so I was going to record my voice in the bear and all that stuff. And you gotta realize that, like, for a male to ask another male and then that male to go along with him to go to
that means something.
to go to a bear store.
Well, we walked in. It was kind of strange. Yeah,
it was a little bit weird.
Can we get a bear together?
Yeah, we're gonna pick up a bear. Paul, you stand there while I go into this room and
stuff the bear.
Stuff the bear, talk into the bear's butt so it can record my voice
many times just to get the recording right.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, so like that's one thing. And when I went to the jewelry store to pick up the engagement ring, right? I asked Paul to come with me, and just for support, right? Just to like have somebody there. I had already picked out the ring, etc. But just to have a person to like, hey, Paul, what do you think? Like, this is what I got Josie.
Yeah, you want that person also, that long-term friendship to be, again, we said it before, straight up with you, right? So, I think you're crazy, or it's a good idea, or it's just to tell it like it is, because there are a lot of people out there that just tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah.
And we fear it a lot. They're yes men, yes women, whatever.
Exactly.
So it's good. But, I think the true relationship or friendship is when you're honest and say, listen, I don't think it's a good idea to, start that job or something like that. Right. Or, I think it's a great idea. Or if you want to, propose this way, then that's amazing or whatever. Yeah. Or maybe you should do this, give suggestions. Right. So it's always there to kind of help out, but at the same time, give that feedback that's kind of like, maybe you should think that through again.
Originally, one of the ways I was gonna, I was coming up with all these ideas to propose, whatever. And I remember saying one idea to Paul, and he's like, "No, that's stupid." And it was, I said to him, I'm like, "Yeah, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna sit down with Josie, and we're gonna play the game of life. And then when you get to the point where you have to stop and get married, I'm gonna propose to her."
I remember.
Paul's like, "Yeah, but." Like, do you guys ever play the game of life?
Yeah,
I'm like, no.
So she's gonna know something. Maybe she should just roll the other turn and move on to the next round.
What if she gets there and she says she doesn't want to get married?
That would be a problem.
So anyway, I was coming up with some ideas, and then it's cool. It's good to have that person in your life that you can talk to about those kind of things. And then Paul, when he was.
I think it was just when I met my wife.
Well, before
girlfriend, it was kind of funny because we had gone out, and I said, "Okay, Joe, you got to come with me." First person I called, Joe. I said, "Joe, I think
I went to this office.
We went to this. Okay, we're gonna, I met this whatever person. And I said, they're going out, so let's go out and meet them and whatever." And I remember where it was. It was in Mississauga at some bar, lounge, club kind of thing. And I still remember what happened that day. So we were a little early, and we didn't want to be kind of, early to the party. Yeah. So we drove around for a bit, and we stopped at a Tim Hortons parking lot. Again, the Tim Hortons. And we're sitting in the car. We got a coffee or something like that. And this guy came up to us. And we, at the time, we just kind of, because my mind was somewhere else. Yeah. And we were just kind of talking about, what we're going to do tonight. What we're going to, and it was kind of, this guy approached the window of the car, and knocked on the window, and he's like, "Hey, can you help me? My car broke down, and I just need like $20 for the tow truck, whatever." He pulls out this wad of cash, and it must have been thousands of dollars in 20s. And he goes, "Look, other people help me." And I don't know if I said to the guy, "Well, you got enough money. Like, you see the money, right?" And so, okay, listen, just to not cause any problems, we'll give you the money, whatever. Yeah. I think it was 10 minutes later that quote me if I'm wrong. It wasn't him though. I think the police came, said, I don't remember exactly, but somebody came and said, "Is there a guy asking for money around here? Because he's scamming people."
Yeah, scamming people.
Yeah. And I said, I just gave the guy $20. He said, "Yeah, so did I." And he's scamming like everybody in this whole parking lot. I'm like, okay, great. So anyways.
But even before then though, like the conversation, I remember the conversations, like when you were thinking about like approaching that. He's like,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah,
we'd
yeah. It
sit
was
there at the
kinda, yeah.
coffee shop. He's like, okay, so Joe, like if I
Oh,
go
we had, I
there,
think, many nights
if I go
like
to
that.
yeah, if I go to the office, like
It
and
was planned out.
like, is it bad if when I go to the office I bring her a coffee?
Yeah, yeah. It was if this then that
Yeah, right.
conversations.
And I'm like, well, I don't know, because what if she doesn't drink coffee?
That's right. She's gonna know I don't want any.
Right? Because for some
Ultimately, I
people,
just said-
coffees are diuretic.
That's right. That's right. What podcast episode was that? But I think I just kind of said at the end of the day, I just said,
You just gotta do it.
I'm just gonna call her.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah.
And then basically that's history, right?
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
it was just that. And I think you know what's funny? I think that says something. So you could have a million conversations,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, it's boom. You just got to say, okay, I'm gonna make a decision and
Yeah.
do it. And
Yeah.
that's it. And that's how you move forward.
Yeah.
If you don't make decisions like that in life,
Yeah.
you're not going to get anywhere.
But I remember I was at the
Yeah.
corner in the Tim Hortons in Bolton. We were like in one of the corners there, sitting around, and we're just going back and forth, back and forth.
back
Like,
and
okay,
forth.
so okay, how
Brainstorming.
many times have you gone into the office? Okay,
Yeah.
like
Well, maybe you shouldn't go one more time.
yeah,
But if you
yeah.
do, then
did she
maybe
did
you
she
know,
talk to you? Does she seem like
does she know you're alive?
Yeah, does she know your first name?
That's funny.
Right? Like, like, are you going for a reason?
Yeah.
Right? He's
We
like-
had to
and
make
Paul's
up
like,
a
I
reason.
could come up with a
We
reason.
did. I think we did ultimately.
Yeah.
Right.
So anyway,
that was good.
so there was a lot of conversations regarding that, which leads us to like another like huge milestone when it comes to like conversations, which is faith conversations, right?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
Paul and I have always like, when it comes to like talking about like faith and like what's our purpose in life? Like,
Yeah, listen,
like,
I'm
are
sure
we meant to be doing this? Like, what should we be doing? Joe, am I doing enough? Like, am I doing enough good? Like, we'd have all these conversations.
Yeah, it's like, what is the direction I'm going in, the right direction,
Yeah.
whatever that means at the time.
Yeah.
And, am I going to regret this later? And I'm sure people have had that thought themselves or with friends. They've talked about
Yeah.
that, right? But, we've had many conversation about this kind of thing.
So yeah, so we'd be at Tim Hortons. We'd be like, okay, so like, am I fulfilling what I should be doing? Like, am I doing enough good in this world? Are we doing this?
Honestly, though, like, don't you still think about that? Like,
of course.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody does. Say, well, what am I doing here? What should I be doing? Or like.
Well, because interestingly enough, like, so today I was even talking about this with my students because I started reading a book to them, The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. And it's a pretty deep book.
Oh, I think I heard of that book.
Yeah,
I
it's
might
a
read
really
that.
good book. You got to read it, Paul. And it's an amazing book, and it really makes you stop and think about what your purpose in life is. And in the book, I'm not going to say much, but he realizes very quickly that even though he didn't think he made an impact, he made more of an impact than he even realized.
Yeah, sometimes you don't think that it is, but it is. It is something significant, right? Even if you seem like you're lost, but maybe you're really not.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And which leads us to one of our biggest faith conversations. This is like
this is a little bit crazy.
This is to be honest. This is a crazy story. I think this is like one of our craziest story that's ever happened to us. The reason why is because honestly, like, I still get shaky when I talk about
honestly, like, it was like, even at the time, it was like, I couldn't believe, I didn't believe kind of thing. And then I'm like, yeah, something's going on here.
So it was late at night. It was like probably like at least 11
midnight,
o'clock.
at least.
No, at least 11
later.
o'clock.
Yeah.
It was pretty late. We had gone out. I can't remember where it came from. I want to make sure everyone's clear that there was no alcohol in our system at the time.
No,
we always have to clarify that with people because they're like, are you sure that this isn't something you saw or whatever?
Yeah.
So Paul and I were like deep in conversation as we normally would be. And we were
we got on the topic of faith, existence, and all that stuff.
Yeah, so we're having a really deep conversation even about temptation.
Oh yeah,
right. So we had we were having a conversation about temptation, and just to like set the mood, right, or just a like setting of where we were. We were in front of Paul's house, parents' house.
Yeah,
and at the time, Paul's grandmother
in the summer.
Yeah.
something just because
Yeah.
we're outside. Yeah.
Paul's grandmother lived in like a house
Yeah, it was
over
like
the garage.
Yeah, it was a kind of an apartment kind
Yeah.
of thing above my parents' garage, and
Yeah.
she was living there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we were sitting there, we're talking, and we were talking about like how like temptation and stuff like that. And one of the things that was brought up is that like, you know, we're tempted every day, just normal people, whatever. And we have to make those decisions about like whether or not like you're gonna go through with something, etc. But then when we start taking into topic of like, you know, these people that like go out of their way to like really like scam people and like really like
I think that's how we started kind of
how
the
to
conversation.
take their money and stuff like that. It's really sick, right? Like it's like, you know, you have to really like be like tempted by the devil.
We even got on some movies that we've seen and all that
and
about this subject.
Yeah, and then we started talking about a specific TV show. And the TV show that we were talking about is the one where the guy would make it seem like he could talk to people's dead relatives.
Which one was that?
He had a show where he would bring people,
that's right.
He would bring people into the show.
That's right. In the auditorium.
Into the auditorium.
That's right.
He said, "Come upstairs. Your grandfather. Who do you want to talk to today?" And I
gotta look him up.
We're gonna have to look it up.
Yeah.
But the point is that so this show was on, and maybe it's better we don't know the name of the show because we might get sued.
No comment.
Anyways, but so I said to Paul, I go, Paul, interestingly enough, this guy, Paul's like, oh, how does this guy do it? Like he's working.
Yeah, we were coming up with all kinds of ideas.
So I had found out just recently how this guy was scamming people.
Really?
So what he was doing was he had his own people hang out with people outside in line while they were waiting to go into the actual place.
Come on.
And have conversations with them to learn about them. Right.
Oh my.
So they would be like, oh, so how come you're coming to the show? Who do you want to talk to? And then it's, I want to talk to my dead grandfather. Yeah, you know, I want to talk to my grandfather too. They would make connections with people just to learn more about them, to make it seem like, hey, I care about you. And then the guy would turn around, or the people that he hired to do this would go to the stage and say, okay, this person in seat number 55.
Come on.
So it
was all a setup.
Yeah, it was all a setup.
Oh man.
Right? So at the time, I can't remember if we knew this or not, but
no, I don't think we did.
We were talking about it and about how these people, he's taking advantage of people. He's, you know, it must be working through the devil. So it started raining.
It did.
And
yes,
it was dark.
Now I remember vividly as you speak to me about
and
it.
So I was facing the direction of Paul's garage.
Yeah.
Over which was his grandmother's apartment.
Yes.
And Paul was facing me, and we're talking specifically about the devil.
Yeah,
right.
Just
about
came
whether
up
the
and
devil
it was
exists. Yeah. So while that happened, or while we were going, it started like not thunderstorm, but there was
started
lightning,
to come down. Right? Yeah, lightning, and started to rain a little bit.
This bolt of like not lightning that was close to us, but close enough that it lit the sky.
Yeah,
the sky lit overhead over Paul's head, and my jaw dropped slightly.
So you want me to get
like Paul remembers this because he saw my face, and
I looked at Joe's face, and he was like a ghost, frozen.
So I said, Paul, why is your grandmother on the roof?
And honestly, when you said that, I looked at Joe, and again, he was frozen solid, and he's like, "Why is your grandmother on the roof?"
And the reason
why I said
that, was because there was a dark figure that was listening in on our conversation. It felt like
crouched down.
This entity,
I remember,
was crouched down on the roof of Paul's house, right beside his garage, which is close to where the ground.
I'm getting goosebumps. To be honest, it's crazy.
And it's like this figure was listening in on our conversation, and Paul heard me say that. And he saw me looking in that direction. He turned around and saw it too.
Yeah. And then it
just dissipated.
It disappeared. Yeah. And it was crazy because it happened when it's as if the lightning kind of struck, lit up the sky. You turned at the same time and saw this whatever. And then when you said that, I looked beside him.
It's like he knew. It's like Paul knew something was off.
We thought, okay, maybe it's an animal, but there was no
we saw it
way.
again. So what happened was right in that moment, it affected us so much that we actually stood up and ran to Paul's car.
Yeah, we took off. We went around the street.
We got into the car.
Yeah.
We wanted to get out of there. As we were backing up backwards, because your driveway was a disaster with that,
yes, it was.
with that circle and all these cars parked
50
everywhere
cars
all the time. Your
parked
dad's truck.
Yeah, it was everywhere.
So we're trying to get out of there safely.
Yeah,
and we stopped for some reason as we were backing up out of the driveway. And all of a sudden, we both saw it again on the roof.
Yeah, it was on the. And then what I remember was that it looked like a hazy figure.
Yeah,
like this is great. This no word of a lie. It was like a hazy figure. It looked like to me it had like overalls on. Okay, and for me, in my perspective, it got up, walked over the roof ridge.
Yeah,
and that
was
dissipated. It dissipated.
It was like.
Yeah, it was like a mist. Just went, gone. And we were like, I don't know what.
I'm not ashamed to say that I was crying.
Yeah, no, it was ridiculous. And I remember it was raining. More then, and we just kind of looked at each other like, okay, I don't know what's going on right now.
And so we drove around. We came back and we called your parents at 1 a.m.
Yeah. I remember
that's how much it affected us.
And we said somebody was
on the roof.
Somebody's on the roof. And I asked, I said, is my grandmother, is she sleeping upstairs? And I don't know who answered the phone, but like, what are you guys talking about? Like,
but your dad knew. Your dad knew that it was something we saw because the next day he went to go check the rooth.
He did, yeah.
Because he realized by our voice that like we saw something. We were impacted.
Yeah. And he went there and he's like, there's nothing. Nothing here.
There's nothing there.
And we're like, but for both of us to see this kind of thing is like, that's crazy. Yeah. Man. That was like, wow.
And again, we were having a conversation about faith. We were talking about, the devil. We were talking about all these things. And I don't know.
Listen, if it was mind tricks, it would just be one of us.
I do.
But because it was both of us that saw this whatever it was, I think that's something. To this day, whenever we talk about it, I get goosebumps.
I do, and
it's crazy.
I've told the story, and the thing is that the next day, like, I told my parents, and like in the back of my head, I thought, okay, my parents are gonna think, oh, what's this guy saying, whatever.
Yeah.
Like for my parents to say, oh, maybe you did, maybe you saw something.
See,
right?
Something.
Like they didn't say, "Oh, like, you're crazy. What are you thinking?"
No.
Whatever. Like, and almost everyone we talk to and we've told the story to, I think by the way they see how we react when we're even talking about the story, I got impacted by it.
Honestly, Matt, you were like, when I saw your face, you were stunned completely. I'm like, I've never seen Joel like this. Something's wrong. I thought something happened.
Yeah, something like what just
this guy's having a heart attack or something.
Yeah, really. Because I couldn't like when you see something and your brain is trying to like come up with an idea as to like how does this make sense?
What am I seeing right now? Yeah.
Like I'm trying to like this doesn't make sense here.
Yeah. It's crazy. It was crazy.
There shouldn't be something hovering over us that looks like a black
still gives
figure.
me is your grandmother on the roof?
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you talking about? And
because
then,
in my mind, that was the only explanation.
Yeah. And it was strange. I was like, honestly, I'm just at a loss for words to be honest. It's crazy.
So like when you have a moment like that, it's definitely gonna be you're
something, never gonna forget that.
Yeah, that you're never gonna forget. So like moving on from there, like one of the next big things that happened in my life that Paul helped me with was my move to Windsor.
That was fun.
It was pretty it was pretty emotional. It was actually, we were going to check out the apartment that I was going to move into in Windsor the day after I proposed.
Yeah, that's right.
So I remember like I proposed to my wife, and then that night Paul came over to my wife's house to celebrate a little bit, have a drink. And then the next day early, we left to drive to Windsor to check out the apartment.
A 4-hour drive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was it 4 or 4.5?
It was
I don't
fun.
remember.
We went for just a day.
Just
we
a
drove
day,
in the
yeah.
morning. We came back at night.
Yeah.
And then even like Paul came with a bunch of the guys to help me move there,
Yeah.
to come
I
back.
remember.
These are the things that friends do, right? Like they help each other out. It was a big milestone. Paul had gone away to university before. Like he went to Waterloo.
Yeah.
I hadn't, right? So for me, it was a big thing.
You know what's funny?
I had no
Looking
clue.
back, it feels like it's just like a flash how fast it was.
Yeah.
How many years were you there again?
No,
Like
I was just there for the 1 year.
Just the 1 year.
It's a teacher's college.
So it was kind of like, well, he's not even gone for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It was weird.
It was weird.
Yeah.
It was definitely weird. And then after that, the next big thing was my wedding. Paul was an integral part of that with being.
Listen, weddings are
party.
always fun, especially when you're friends and all that, right? Like when I got married as well.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of
being in each other's bridal parties.
Yeah. I mean, we all have the same friends as well.
Yeah.
It's not just, myself and Joe.
Yeah.
We have a bunch of other friends that we hang out with regularly. And to be involved in stuff like that, it's just like, okay, that's,
it's amazing, right?
It's amazing,
you always like hope
you don't forget that.
Yeah. You always hope that you're able to create an actual friendship relationship in your life where they could, someone will be there for those monumental moments, right? Because not every, we're lucky, right?
Yeah. Well, sometimes when a lot of people, I think we mentioned it, when they get married or they find a girlfriend or boyfriend, they disappear.
Yeah.
That's it. You never see them again. That's it. You try to keep in contact. But I think we kind of said that, okay, no matter what happens, we're still going to remain friends.
Yeah.
And, there may have been some times where it's like a longer period of time where you don't either talk or see each other because, life happens. You get married, you have kids and all that, and the kids grow up and then your priorities and all that stuff. But, we're here today, right?
Exactly.
Talking on this podcast.
Yeah.
And just, I think it's an effort, obviously,
of course,
to keep relationships going, but it's an effort, but it's effortless, right? So like if Joel doesn't call me for a year, you could pick up the phone and talk to me. I'll be like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like you pick up where you left off and it's like nothing happened.
Here,
we got the history.
We have the history. That's a foundation.
That's right.
Right. And based on the history, what you can count on the other person, right? Like, okay, like if I need this, if I have, like I said in the first podcast, and Paul reiterated the same thing, right? I know if I can call Paul, we can have a joking conversation or we can have a serious conversation, right? I don't have to worry either way. So again, we were both, big parts of each other's, very important days in the weddings. I remember, Paul had just a little bit too much to drink at my wedding.
Yeah, a little bit. I remember half of it.
Yeah. So for sure he had a little bit to drink there. I'm gonna test Paul here because
go ahead.
I was Paul's best man, and I to be honest with you, like I knew I was in the running, right? But I didn't know for sure. I'm like, you know what? There's a chance Paul's gonna ask me to be his best man, but I didn't know for sure.
Damn it! I gotta make a speech.
So no, speeches I'm not worried about. We will talk about the speech though, because that's something I was a little bit upset about. But
okay.
But Paul asked me to be the best man. We're at my house in Maple. And we were sitting down and we were watching. I can't even believe we watched this movie, but we were watching a movie just because you're like over and we're like, hey, let's watch a movie. And while we were watching this movie is when Paul asked me to be his best man. Okay, so I want to see if Paul remembers.
Let me guess.
What movie we were watching.
I have no idea. Okay. Maybe it was like, okay, maybe I need the right time to ask this guy.
It was super bad.
Oh my God. Yeah, I remember that. I remember
with that guy with the fake license.
Yeah, that's right.
That kid, I don't know. I forget. It was like a nerdy kid.
Yeah.
Anyways, it was a funny movie. It
was a stupid funny movie.
Yeah, it was a stupid funny movie.
Yeah.
But anyways,
that was crazy. I remember that now. Oh my God.
We were watching Superbad.
Oh man.
And then
McLovin, I think.
Yeah, McLovin. He had a fake ID that said McLovin.
That's right.
Guys, like, who's gonna believe that your last name is McLovin?
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So anyways, so I remember that, and like I said, I was Paul's best man, and like leading to Paul's wedding, we decided to do something fun. So we got tickets to a hockey game in Buffalo. To watch the Buffalo Sabres and my favorite team, the Washington Capitals. So we drove there. We drove to Buffalo. We even met up with my cousin there, who was going to school at the time. And it was a classic moment.
I remember
because it was the moment that
this is funny, man.
We all there was credibility to something that for the longest time we knew about Paul. So with the thing with Paul is that he's
I'm gonna post some more pictures so you understand what we're talking about.
He's got a doppelganger, right? and for people who don't know what that is, it's basically what twin.
You look like what's it called? Fraternal twins, where you kind of look the same.
Yeah, almost like a twin.
Almost like
right. So for the longest time, we always joked around that Paul looked like Dukey Hauser MD.
You know what? And it was funny that my first dog, I named it after
Dukey Hauser MD.
Dukey Hauser. My first dog's name was Dukey.
Okay, so to be honest, the thing is that
Neil Patrick Harris, basically.
Yeah, Neil
That's
Patrick
the guy.
Harris, NPH for short.
NPH
for short. So
also on How I Met Your Mother, which is the other podcast. That's right.
Which you have to watch.
Yeah.
So the thing is that
this is leading up to the story.
Yeah,
that's
leading
why.
up to the story, right? Because we need some credibility to this. Because so many people for the longest time said, you look like Dukey Hauser, and it's not just the look; it's also because, for some reason, a joke between even me and Tom for the longest time have been that, when Paul eats, it's like he's doing surgery, right?
Well, listen, you got to meticulously disassemble the chicken,
etc. Right? So that's one skill set he has. He has the ability to blow something across the table with the air from his nostrils.
Yes, I do.
That
took many years of practice. I could blow a candle out across the table.
Again, very talented. But the Dukey Hauser MD resemblance, we always bothered him. So that night when we drove to Buffalo, we were going to watch the hockey game the next day, and the night that we drove there was actually Halloween night.
Yeah.
Right. And so we went to, we met up with my cousin at a bar, and we go into the bar, and it was Halloween night, and we were kind of embarrassed because we didn't go for that purpose, right? We went for the hockey game. We decided, hey, let's go to a bar, but we weren't dressed for the occasion, meaning that there was a lot of people.
Some jerseys, but
there were a lot of people that were dressed for the occasion, meaning it's Halloween, right?
Yeah.
But Paul was wearing a suit jacket, one of those, not a suit jacket, but a
dressy kind of,
right? So so we walk in, and we're in the bar, and then
this was as soon as we walked in.
As soon as we walk in,
this was what was crazy.
This girl walks up to Paul and goes, "Oh my God, that's such an amazing costume," and we're all sitting here confused. And we're like, what is she talking about? Obviously she's been at the bar for a while.
A long time, yeah.
She's like, Dukey Hauser MD, right?
Honestly. And I was like, yeah, that's me.
Yeah, that's me. So a random person who did not know Paul.
This confirms it.
Thought that night at Halloween at a bar that he was dressed up.
You know what this person was wearing? She was wearing a Viking costume. I remember because it was she was completely plastered.
Yeah.
Are you Dukey Hauser? Yes, I am.
So anyways, and so I know, it probably annoys Paul, but still to this day, maybe every 6 months to a year, I'll send some pictures of
remind me.
I remind Paul by sending him pictures of it's crazy that I continually forget his name and I always call him Dukey.
Well, me too. I think everybody knows him for Dukey if they don't remember.
Yeah.
But he's done a lot of things.
I mean, like I said, How I Met Your Mother. All that
he's
stuff.
hosted even the Academy Awards.
Yeah, exactly. He's big, right?
He's very successful.
Yeah. But I'll send pictures of him just doing random things drinking a cup of
or a GIF or something. Or GIF. How do you say it? GIF,
whatever you say. Yeah, and Paul will get a laugh out of it. But so I was best man at Paul's wedding, and I remember I took a lot of I put a lot of time and effort into the speech, and and like with all the speeches, like I mean, even remember when we got together to do Tom's speech, right? Like we really take time and effort to really like entertain,
and nailed it on the head,
and to do a good job with it. And the reason why I'm upset is because I remember just thinking like, you know, I remember finishing my best man speech, and the maid of honor, she comes up to me, she's like, oh my God, that was amazing. Like, what am I supposed to do now?
It's like, how am I going to follow that act? Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I felt proud because I was like, because
you
like
did a good job.
No, it feels nice when people are like, wow, you know what? You can tell by this speech that like these guys have a good connection and like that they're good friends, etc. And then Paul steps up and does his speech, and like he nailed like our friendship. Like was like even like getting together at stores and like me convincing him to buy stuff.
Oh man. Every time we go somewhere, you should do this. You should buy that.
Paul,
you should do that. You know what you should? This is your favorite line. Yeah. You know what you should do? ... You know what you should do? This is what you should do. But, and then what happens? I end up doing it.
Yeah. So
because it goes back to okay, maybe I will.
Maybe I will. So it was. I just remember thinking like I spent so much time preparing this speech because I really wanted to deliver this like moment, and like Paul just steps up and he's just like boom, he just knocks it out of the park just like that, and it seemed very simple. It didn't seem like he even just made it up on the spot. Right. So I do have to say that's still a moment that I'm kind of a little bit upset about.
But hey, listen, you know what?
It's okay that you
it was good anyway
that you out-speeched me on your own wedding.
Oh, okay.
It's okay.
Well, there you go. Thanks. No problem.
So with that being said, after we moved on from there, obviously we were both married, and the next thing that came was like kids. And the cool thing is that like both of our kids that we've had were born the same year.
Yeah.
So they're the same age.
Similar ages, both of them.
So, it's nice to have that because then, when we get together, even there's like that commonality that, the kids can play each other. It's an awesome feeling. What I say is like, even like we talked about in previous episode where like we went a long time during COVID where we didn't see each other, maybe talk to each other as much as we normally would. Yeah. And like, I went to Paul's cottage last year and I was saying to him, I'm like, it's amazing. Like we get together and it's like nothing's happened.
And the kids play like it's their best friends.
The kids just like get together and they have such fun together.
Yeah.
And they hadn't seen each other for so long. Yeah. Right. And it's remarkable, right?
Well, it's because also before that the next points that we're going to make, we go on vacation, right?
We went on two big vacations together. We went to Jamaica in 1 year, and we went to Costa Rica the next year. Yeah. So
both great trips.
Amazing trips. Yeah. Jamaica was really fun. I think we had a great time, at that Tapanaki place.
Oh man,
it was really good.
That was a fun night.
The jerk chicken on the beach.
So they had this big, massive cauldron with fresh chicken and prongs from the sea and all. Oh man, it was. I don't know how they cooked. We can't replicate that.
It was great. The kids had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. It's when you go on vacation with people that are really good friends, and then on top of that they've got kids and everything. It works out so nicely because, there's that trust factor too. Like when we were on the beach, like I knew that if I had to step away from the beach for a few moments or whatever, that I had Paul, I had Tom there, and they would be watching our kids like they were their own. Right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's basically like a big family, right? So, just like anybody in your immediate family would take care of whatever needs to be done. It would be the same with close friends.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. So Jamaica was huge. And then we went to, actually, I think like it's still embedded in my head. And it's like, so Paul's son, Marcus, like there's a picture we took.
Oh, that was classic,
of
man.
Him.
That was in Costa Rica though.
No.
Yeah, I was in Costa Rica.
Are you sure?
I was in Costa Rica.
Come on, I think it was Jamaica.
Yeah. I got to show you that picture.
No, because it was at the bottom of a water slide.
That
was in Jamaica, I thought.
Was that Jamaica?
Yes.
Okay.
The water slide was Jamaica.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So we didn't have a water slide in Costa Rica.
You know what? You're right.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember.
In Jamaica,
now.
there's a water
That's
slide.
right. Yes,
so,
yes.
So in Jamaica, there was like a side pool that had like a kid's water slide, and Marcus came down this water slide, and when he got off the water slide, like. We took a picture and with like this water, there's like water splashing behind him. He had like his arms like in like a pose, and like the excitement and happiness in his face. It looked like a postcard. It looked like
who took that picture?
I don't know if it was Nadia or Josie. It was
okay.
It was one of the two.
It was one of the two, but. Yeah, I think we were going to go to the hotel and say, you want to buy this picture?
Buy this picture right now.
Because it could go on your magazines.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
It was, you look at this picture and you're like, I want to go on vacation.
That's right. Yeah.
Because you see the joy in that kid's face.
Yeah.
Nothing beats that. This kid right now is happier than he's been in so long. You can just tell.
I think I looked at that like maybe a month ago. It just came up on my
in your memories.
In the memories on the photos. It was
it's a classic picture.
It's a classic picture.
It's a really good picture.
So I just want to say something. So we go on vacations. However, whenever we just I just go about my daily business, and then Joe all of a sudden calls me up and says, "Okay, you wanna go somewhere?" Like. What do you mean? Where do you want to go?
This is what I do.
So this is what he does. Yeah, you want to go somewhere? Okay, fine. Like, what do you want to do? Go to Blue Mountain, right? No, I was thinking Costa Rica. Like Costa Rica, I gotta go to some foreign country I've never been to with big, massive bugs, which we'll get to, and whatever. But honestly, like it was. I think Costa Rica. I've never been to that kind of South America kind of thing. And it was like amazing, man.
It was one of the places for the longest time that was on my bucket list of places to go. Because I always wanted to zip line in Costa Rica, which we did.
That was like an experience that, you could zip line at Blue Mountain, in Blue Mountain, whatever, certain spots around here.
Yeah.
Not the same.
Yeah.
Not the same. Like I remember like just, so you go up to this tree.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh yeah, this is nothing. Everything's covered. So you don't see what's basically in front of you. Just a few trees because you're in a rainforest. And you stand up on this podium, all of a sudden you go. Now, whoever's been lining out there, you know what I'm talking about. So all of a sudden you go and like, oh, this is not bad. So I'm swinging on this thing. I'm like, this is nothing. Yeah. You pass the tree line, it opens up into a 1,500 foot drop of a valley. And it's like, what are we doing? And you just keep going, right?
Yeah.
And I remember specifically the guy saying, if you stop halfway, just hold on with both hands. Like, what are you talking about? He's like, so next up is this next run, and it's about a mile long.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And 1,500 feet high. Yeah. I'm like, what are you talking about?
It was great.
It was amazing though.
What was fun, it was cool about that trip too, is that like, Paul just like randomly texted me. He's like, I just booked. Because for a while, like we had booked and we weren't sure if you guys were gonna come because you were kind of back and forth, like I don't know, should we, whatever. And then all of a sudden you're like, "What day are you guys leaving again?" I'm like, "Yeah." And then he sends me a text with a picture of the
I remember
of the booking.
that. Yeah, you know why? Because when you were presented with opportunities or experiences, you're like, okay, let's just do it. I don't care.
And the thing is that like I tend to be a scorch. And I tend to hype things up.
This is what Joe does. He sends me subtleties every so often to convince me to go. It's like, when you get ads on like Facebook, that's basically what Joe is.
Based on
it's like, oh look, Costa Rica, here's a fact.
Your history.
Here's a fact of Costa Rica. And I'm like at work and I'm like, oh, okay, thanks. Then here's the temperature right now in Costa Rica. I'm like, okay, thanks, whatever. So after about 500 of those, I'm like, okay,
maybe I should go to Costa Rica.
Maybe I should go to Costa Rica.
You know why? Because it was in your RAS.
That's reticular activating system. Oh,
so we went to Costa Rica and like the I think the when we were there, what was cool is the resort is like on its own.
Yeah.
In the middle of its own little rainforest.
If you look from above, you can't even see it on the ground. It's covered by foliage and all that. It was really kind of cool.
And it was definitely like pools are amazing. The beach was like dark sand. Like if it's for beach lovers might not be crazy about it. There are some amazing beaches in Costa Rica, but
it wasn't crystal clear.
It's
blue
not
water.
It wasn't.
It was
kind of
a little bit different.
There were monkeys walking around.
That was crazy. Just hanging on the trees.
That raccoon that followed me.
Oh my god! How about that? I remember that.
I remember that time. So then there's another time where
Like, what is this thing doing, following me all the time?
well, but it wasn't even just a raccoon. Like I was walking.
You're like Dr. Doolittle.
I was walking to. I remember this because I still have this picture. I was walking within the resort, and then all of a sudden my phone dings, and I look, and it's a picture of me walking in the resort, and it's because Paul was like with was with Nadia and the kids in like a bush or something.
I wasn't in the bush. I was on the balcony.
And on the balcony. And you're taking overhead pictures of me.
I told Nadia, I'm like, hey, look, there's Joe in the middle. I gotta freak him out right now. Oh man.
So he takes a picture of me and sends it to me. I'm like, who's taking these pictures of me and sending it to me? And it was Paul. So anyways, we went on an awesome excursion there. And what's cool about it is that when I look back, and I tell people, because like one of my cousins, she's going to the same resort in a couple of months.
Oh, nice.
And I was telling her about this excursion.
What was it called? The Dreams?
Yeah,
something?
the Dreams. Yeah. So it's the Dreams Resort in Costa Rica. Yeah. And so what was cool about it was like there was this excursion which we decided to do, which is basically they drive you to the middle of the rainforest. Yeah. You go horseback riding. Yeah. They show you how they make their coffee. Yeah. They show you some pottery. You go on this crazy 1.5 kilometer slide through the rainforest.
All I remember is go.
You do the zip lining. Yeah. And then you go do the mud baths and you have lunch. Yeah. And it's just over $100. Yeah. If you got to go ride a horse in Woodbridge, it costs $50.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, but I remember like specifically maybe 3 or 4 things from this whole vacation. Yeah. Number one, there was, I don't know if it was a cricket or maybe a locust. It was as big as the phone. Yeah. Like our cell phone.
She put the cell phone beside it.
Like a Galaxy Note. It was a
grasshopper. It was a grasshopper.
A grasshopper, but massive, as big as your hand.
Imagine the grass.
But it was as big as your hand. I remember that. Yeah. I remember the zip lining. I remember to be honest, the excursion was like one of the better parts. Crazy. Yeah. And there was one other thing that it was that big bull that was turning around this thing, cool. Crushing. Yeah. I don't know what it was crushing.
Coffee beans, or I don't know what it was.
But it just kept like licking its lips, walking around this thing. Yeah. This massive. I'm talking about this bull was as big as a bus. Yeah. And it was just there.
It was crazy.
Yeah. It's probably still there.
I remember when we went to that steakhouse, there was a little bit of butter on that steak.
There was a lot of butter on that steak. I think it was more butter than steak.
All I remember is like the steak comes out, and Paul looks at it, and like at first I thought it was an onion on a steak, but it was actually butter.
It was basically it was 10-ounce steak. It was 8 ounces of butter.
Yeah, the steak was pretty good though.
Yeah, you know what? For an all inclusive for like all you can eat, like sometimes it was Dominican. When we went to the Dominican, it was touch and go. It was okay. It was touch and go. Some of the product wasn't that great, but this one was like it was pretty good.
Jamaica was good too.
Jamaica, the jerk chicken was next to none, right? Those were good times, man.
Yeah. So we went on the trips and like I said, we, since, we've had some rough times with COVID, but we've all been able to come out, relatively unscathed, thank God. And, and then we come to this podcast.
That's right. Right. You know what's funny? I think talking about the podcast, you could look at certain things as negative or positive, but like, COVID, I'm talking about, right? So a lot of people have obviously some, they went through a lot of things, good, bad, and ugly.
Of course.
But sometimes it's like, maybe if this didn't happen, maybe we wouldn't be doing this right now.
Well, that's the thing.
So it's kind of like, because we kind of said, listen, we're kind of, I guess bored and we've been basically secluded for the past 2 years. Yeah. Let's try something different. Yeah, and we kind of did that. True. So I think everything
does open up doors.
It opens up doors. You start to think of different ways to do things. Yeah. Right. When your back's against the wall, I guess. And you just kind of said, you know what? Let's try it. Yeah. Let's do it.
Think outside the box.
Think outside the box.
Right. And like I said, before we started this podcast, like Paul had been doing a lot of stuff on Instagram. Like I'm not on Instagram that much, right? And so like I'm gonna be honest with you. I was a little bit embarrassed, right? I was embarrassed because I learned from someone else that like Paul was doing like these really good motivational things on Instagram. And I'm like, I felt bad because I'm like, this is a good friend of mine. And I didn't even realize he was doing this because we lost connection for a while. And then I'm not on Instagram that much. So I'm like,
when I started that during COVID.
Yeah.
Because I said, you know what? I don't care. And when people start to post things like this or even the podcast, they open themselves up to all kinds of comments and
criticisms,
whatnot. But you know what? For me, I don't really care.
I don't care either.
No, because you can say whatever you want.
Yeah.
For me, it's like, I'm doing this not for comments or for likes or for whatever. I'm doing it because I feel like I want to share something.
Yeah.
If you like my opinion, great. If you don't,
okay, what are you
go
gonna
look
do?
somewhere else.
Yeah.
And if you're really like against certain, like bashing me or whatever, delete, block.
Yeah.
Thank you, bye-bye. Yeah. Right. So it doesn't affect me. And I think a lot of people who are struggling to start things like this, they should just do it. Because to be honest, what does it matter what somebody else thinks? At the end of the day,
it doesn't.
I mean, I think maybe I've grown a little bit of a thick skin in the line of work that I'm in and construction and all that. And at the end of the day, you kind of think to yourself, well, you know what? Who cares? Because, when are you going to do something?
Well,
just do it.
And so,
right?
who cares? A couple of people have even told me, they're like, you know what? Like, good on you guys. Like, it takes a lot of courage to put yourself out there.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing for people. They again, it goes back to what will people think?
Yeah.
You know what? This podcast is trying to spark conversations in people to tell us what they think, right? So we're kind of promoting it, if you will.
Yeah.
Right?
And the thing is that like I don't really care what people think.
Me neither, man.
Honestly, like, you know what I mean? Like you do. Like it's human nature.
Yeah.
Like
I think 20 years ago we worried about that. We're worried about it more. We've got to the point where it's
what I mean. But
really
if someone comes up to me and says, I listened to your podcast and it was crappy. I didn't get anything out of it.
Good.
Okay, well maybe someone else did,
or maybe listen to another one, a different one, or the next episode. See what you think.
But and like I said, for me, what I really like about this is it's again like having these conversations, doing something out of the norm, right? We both have our lives that we do, our jobs, our lives at home, and then there's something else that we're constantly thinking about now in other ways.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, so. and I think honestly, I like doing this because if you're going about your daily life, sometimes you're like, okay, you're in a routine and it's the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
But when I meet with Joe here, it's kind of like, oh, well, that's interesting. Yeah. Let me think about that. It's different, right? Yeah, it's always dynamic, and you're
like I still talk to so when we're recording this right now, it hasn't dropped yet, but it would have by the time you hear this episode. We did an episode on Did You Know? And like I remember, like we finished that episode, and I was like, "Oh my god!" I just learned so much from Paul.
Yeah, and same for me.
And even like telling other people, I'm like, "We did this episode. Did you know?" And like, you know what? I learned a lot. Like it was really good.
And you know what? I think we're going to have a couple more of those because it's kind of interesting to be honest.
It's definitely interesting. So I think that's pretty much our origin story. And the thing is, and I mentioned it in the description of the episode too. Like origin story talks about like a lot of people relate that to like superheroes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like what I said on the description for this episode is that when you have a good friend by your side, it's like you have a superhero. It's like you have a superpower, right? Yeah. Because when you have somebody beside you that that you can count on, that you can go through tough times, fun times with, whatever, you've got that extra confidence. You have that extra pep in your step, right? It's like, oh, I know I have this person.
It's like an extra brain that follows you around, basically, right?
Exactly. Right. And so as we do, every time we get together, we thank you for losing yourself in our conversations. And until next time, I'm Joe.
I'm Paul.
We'll see you.